Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter review for chapter 6. And now that chapter 6 is done in the books, man, do we got a lot to talk about. Naruto's baby boy is now walking the path of becoming the next Itachi. Kawaki is officially on fraud watch alongside Code, and Shikamaru as Hokage is playing a very dangerous game that has the potential to backfire depending on what his next few moves are moving forward. And most importantly, we got Ninja Mania 2024, the matchup that many of us have been waiting on. Boruto versus Sage Mode Mitsuki. They're finally squaring up in the ring, and things are about to get really heated now because Boruto is promising to beat some sense into Mitsuki if he doesn't back down from their fight. So with my initial thoughts out of the way, let's back things up and let's get into the chapter review in of itself. So we open up this part of the story with Shikamaru meeting with the elders of Konoha, who for reference right now at this point in the story are 91 years old, and they let it be known right away that Boruto coming back to Konoha changes nothing, even if he was the one who saved the village from Code's attack, because he still is a wanted man for killing the 7th Hokage and attempting to murder the son of the 7th Hokage, Kawaki Uzumaki. They lay it on pretty thick when they start grilling Shikamaru, telling him that they can't sit by and do nothing because this is something that is bigger than the Hidden Leaf Village. This is the entire will of the whole Land of Fire, with the feudal lord being extremely pissed off over what's happened, and it makes a lot of sense. With the world thinking that Naruto is dead, this is more than just the death of a run-of-the-mill Hokage. Naruto represents something much larger than that. He represents hope itself. He saved the world from Kaguya, Toneri, Momoshiki, and Ishiki. During the darkness of the 4th Ninja War, his bright gold KCM cloak was the light that pushed away the darkness of so many shinobi. He was the glue that kept the 5 nations together during the 16 years of unprecedented peace on this continent. The Land of Fire's feudal lord, Madoka Ikkyo, as we saw in the Boruto Mujina Bandits arc, he considers Naruto a close personal friend. Not bringing his killer to justice, it isn't an option, and when Shikamaru tries to back out of the conversation, he's hit with another dose of reality, which is that the 3 years he requested before officially becoming Hokage, those 3 years are now up. One thing that's been glaring obvious is that Shikamaru's face hasn't been covered on the Hokage monument now, and he hasn't officially taken the title Hokage yet, despite wielding the authority of Hokage, basically doing what Kakashi did in Kakashi Hiden, Lightning in the Frozen Sky, where Kakashi made decisions as Hokage, but he hadn't officially taken the title from Tsunade by having his ceremony, much like we saw Tsunade do in Naruto Part 1. The elders, they tell Shikamaru that the other villages, they are paying attention to this lack of decision by Shikamaru as well, and Shikamaru kicks it down the road, saying that he'll report back to them later, and that's in character for him. It's actually very in character. Shikamaru was someone who multiple people said in Naruto's manga had the potential to be Hokage, from Tamari to Asuma, but Asuma in particular said that Shikamaru would never seek out the position due to how much work it required. We're seeing some of that hesitancy now with Shikamaru, albeit it's for different reasons than what Asuma predicted, and when Shikamaru is smoking to calm his nerves, we see Ino show up at the Hokage office with the old ninja mission records, and we get our first sign that Shikamaru has been thinking over Amado's words in the last chapter very carefully, and it's beginning to bother him. Amado realized that all their memories were altered, and he kept it quiet. Now Shikamaru is finally looking at the mission records and applying that same logic that Amado used, which is that regardless as to what his memories are telling him, the evidence in front of him is telling him otherwise. And Shikamaru says it himself, he had never considered the possibility that his memories might have been altered. We learned in the last chapter that passing out photos of baby Boruto with Naruto didn't work. Sarada tells us as much, but those mission records, that's a different matter. They're kept under lock and key in the Hokage Tower. That's highly sensitive information that not just anybody will be able to actually get their hands on and alter. So you can see the logic behind what Shikamaru is trying to do to verify information. Just as Amado recognized his signature on Kawaki's ninja tech, Shikamaru going through those mission records is looking for evidence to see if Sarada was telling the truth about Boruto and Kawaki. When Ino calls him out on breaking protocol, Shikamaru tells her that this is information that they're about to discuss that needs to only be between himself and Ino. The sensory team, they can't know about their conversation. Neither can Eida, Kawaki, or Amado, with Shikamaru telling Ino that she's the only person he can depend on now, and that obviously leads to Ino agreeing to help. It's then that we shift to Kawaki being brought up to speed by Eida about the shinjuu, and we see a big red flag that is easy to go unnoticed if you aren't paying very close attention. Kawaki gets told the shinjuu are targeting Boruto and Kawaki, which is nothing to be surprised about. They're Otsutsuki. They're gonna seek them out to devour them, but when Eida says that Naruto's in danger, that's the only thing that Kawaki hears, and he shows no regard for Eida saying that she's a target as well. She's an afterthought to Kawaki, and this is big for two big reasons. One, it shows that despite everything that Eida has done for Kawaki to try to win his love and affection, Kawaki still views her as a tool. She's a human GPS monitor or a surveillance camera and nothing else. She's a very distant second when it comes to his priorities. The only thing that he cares about is Naruto. At this point, Eida is basically a sneaky link, and as far as Kawaki's concerned, Naruto is his one and only, which is something that no sneaky link could ever hope to be. And the hurt expression on Eida's face, it really stands out, as does Daemon giving Kawaki a cold stare in the process, which is important because Daemon's priority is his sister before anything else. And back when the Omnipotence was casted and Daemon thought that Kawaki was doing something to Eida, he directly says that he'll make him pay, and Kawaki vows to kill Daemon if they ever cross blows again. And being the little troll that he is, Daemon blows up the whole situation, purposely trying to push Kawaki's buttons. He tells Kawaki what happens when the shinjuu, they just come to Konoha randomly and they start looking for Naruto and asking questions about a dead man. People are gonna start figuring out that you're lying, and when that happens, what are you gonna do? Daemon says, hey, I don't particularly care, and you can tell from the moment that he says that Kawaki's not pleased, and he's pointing out to Kawaki and his obsession with Naruto and his obsession to killing Boruto. He's left himself open for getting exposed, and Daemon pretty much finds it hilarious about what will happen to Kawaki when the truth comes out. And Eida, seeing that Daemon is beginning to piss Kawaki off, immediately tries to step in, but the damage is done. There's no salvaging it. Kawaki now leaves the room, but much to his dismay, Mitsuki is on the other side of the room, and he may or may not have actually been listening in this entire time, which leads to Kawaki comparing Mitsuki to goldfish poop that's floating in a fish tank, which is basically him calling Mitsuki a follower. Be very curious to see how Viz Media actually translates that. Meanwhile, on the other side of Konoha, Sarada begins to start blushing at the way that she behaved when she first saw Boruto running into his arms and hugging him, and Sumire, seeing the quiet tension between these two where neither one of them are speaking, they're just sitting there awkwardly without saying any words. She tries to break the ice by starting a conversation with Boruto, which is enough to get Boruto to say, hey, I'm so glad that you two are fine, but for the time being, I need to keep this really short because the sensory team, while they can't sense my chakra, eventually Kawaki's gonna know where I am. He's gonna come after me, and that's what leads to Boruto quickly bringing the two of them up to speed very quickly about everything that happened during the time skip from the moment that he left Konoha all up into the moment that he just showed back up in Konoha, explaining to them how Sasuke sacrificed himself to save Boruto in their battle against Code, how Sasuke had turned into a tree, to the development of the Claw Grimes evolving as shinjuu with their own will, and Boruto shares his theory, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. He says that in the past, they were supposed to eat whatever being had chakra. That's what the shinjuu is supposed to do, and primarily for the longest of times, it was just Otsutsuki because humans didn't have chakra until Hagoromo spread it out. But now, due to Code's Karma Seal, something has changed, and Boruto states that while Karma Seal that Code has, it doesn't have Ishiki's genetics being extracted into him the same way that Momoshiki's was being pumped into Boruto's body and Ishiki's was being pumped into Kawaki's body. At the end of the day, Code has a Karma Seal, and that power that came from the Otsutsuki is inside that Karma Seal, and Boruto theorizes that because Code had Karma and used power of Otsutsuki, it altered those shinjuu into what they are now. Meanwhile, after Mitsuki sneak attacks Kawaki, leaving him unconscious, which somewhere Kawaki fans are screaming in rage over the fact that Mitsuki was able to one-shot Kawaki, albeit it's an off-guard feat. I wouldn't put too much stock into it. He quickly calls for Shikamaru, asking him to have Eida verify Boruto's location for him, saying that he thinks Boruto's in the southwest just based off of Kawaki's prior actions, and he says that he is the best choice to be sent to deal with Boruto, telling Shikamaru that if Kawaki were to go confront Boruto, Boruto just sense him coming and run away. But Mitsuki, on the other hand, he can suppress his chakra, and that he can get the drop on Boruto, which logically speaking, it makes a lot of sense. But now that we know that Shikamaru realizes his memory's been altered, he's in a real bind, and he has to trust that Mitsuki can't actually take down Boruto because Shikamaru needs Boruto to stay alive long enough for him to verify the truth. So in order to hedge his bets, while Mitsuki Mitsuki is racing towards Boruto, Shikamaru has Ino connect him directly to Boruto via the Yamanaka clan's hidden jutsu, and he tells him to not make any signs that they're being connected, which speaks volumes to how cautious Shikamaru is being right now, because he won't even let Sarada and Sumire know the truth, despite the fact that he had previously been working with them on a plan to take down Eida. And Boruto calls Shikamaru out on breaking standard operating procedures, saying that, hey, you're a Hokage right now, so how can I trust you? I am a wanted criminal in Konoha. How do I know you're not setting me up? And just when Shikamaru gives Boruto some goodwill face, saying, hey, someone's coming after you, Mitsuki's snakes, they wrap around Boruto, and we see some of the fruits of Boruto's training with Sasuke begin to kick in. In the last chapter, we got told by Sasuke that Boruto had mastered every jutsu and fighting style that Sasuke could teach him, and it's here in this Mitsuki versus Boruto scuffle that we see some of the similarities in their fighting styles. Boruto, for instance, throws his sword into the air and teleports to a flying Raijin marker on his sword, similar to how Sasuke would use a main Teijikara. Classic example being how Sasuke, when trapped in Momoshiki's chakra chains, was able to teleport himself out of the way in episode 65 of Boruto Naruto Next Generation. So when Boruto lands on the ground and he faces Sage Mode Mitsuki, Boruto knows right away that he's going to be in for a rough fight, as Mitsuki starts to fight from a distance by shooting off those chakra snakes at Boruto, despite Sarada screaming for him to stop. However, Boruto, being the quick analytical thinker that he is, he runs purple lightning through his sword to cut them down and flies into the air to dodge Mitsuki's striking shadow snake jutsu. After Boruto surveys the area to make sure that Mitsuki came alone, he tells Sarada he's going to find a way to turn everyone back to normal, and he flies away from Konoha, but not before promising to return back to the village at a later point in time. And in case you're wondering how Boruto learned the purple lightning, I discussed that in my purple lightning explained video, and I specifically said that Kakashi taught Boruto the jutsu. That's something we find out in the Boruto character files, that Boruto had learned the jutsu itself. While Boruto uses his Otsutsuki powers to fly away, doing the very thing that Amato told us in Boruto Naruto Next Generations when he and Eida came to Konoha, and Amato told Shikamaru that Boruto and Kawaki would soon be flying and using Otsutsuki powers. While Boruto zips through the air, Shikamaru tells Boruto about the kill order on Boruto and that he can't publicly support Boruto, so they'll have to communicate using Ino from now on. And Shikamaru for the first time asks Boruto if he's actually Naruto's real son, directly asking him, are you Uzumaki Boruto? And you can tell from Boruto's expression that's a bit jarring. And this is probably the first time in the last 3 years that Boruto's ever heard someone refer to him as Uzumaki Boruto. And Shikamaru reveals that after he heard Amato's conversation in the last chapter, when he thought everything over, all the irregularities that he saw now made perfect sense to him. The things that Sarada told us in chapter 1, like people saying, why is Naruto's son a cyborg? Why doesn't Naruto's son have Momoshiki's chakra inside of him? Everything makes sense to him now, and he needs Boruto to verify if Boruto and Kawaki's lives have been switched around in terms of everyone's memories. And this also by extension explains why Shikamaru didn't want Eida to know, because he's likely already suspected she had something to do with this, and she's been lying to him out of her loyalty to Kawaki. Shikamaru is putting the pieces together now, and we're seeing exactly what Eida told Sarada and Sumire in chapter 1 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, which is that it's easier for people to come to their own conclusions than to try and change their minds, because if you try to do that, they'll just look at you crazy, whereas they figure it out for themselves, they'll be more likely to accept the truth. However, before Boruto can answer Shikamaru, he notices Mitsuki at some point during the skirmish was able to plant one of those snakes onto him, and he looks up to see Sage Mode Mitsuki running towards him with killing intent, which is a rather impressive speed feat for Mitsuki to move on the ground fast enough to catch up to Boruto, despite Boruto literally flying away from the village at high speeds. It's at this point that Boruto stares down Mitsuki, stating that he'll have to be rough with Mitsuki, and we end the chapter off with a major cliffhanger as the two members of Team 7 are about to square off, and we're about to see just how strong Sage Mode Mitsuki is, which for the purposes of scaling is going to be very important, because it'll show just how much Mitsuki was able to grow in the 3 years he spent training with the intention to kill Boruto, and likely training alongside Kawaki, who would have been training using the methods that Jigen used on Kawaki, which is combating to the point of literal death and stopping just short in order to pump out out every ounce of power inside of him. Based on what we've seen with Boruto in his base, with no Karma Seal, he's already stronger than White Karma Seal Code, who is confirmed to be weaker than Ishiki, but stronger than Jigen, adult Six Paths Naruto, and adult Rinnegan Sasuke. Boruto was manhandling White Karma Seal Code without much difficulty, to a point everyone placed Code on fraud watch, and depending on how Sage Mode Mitsuki does against Boruto, we can start seeing just how high Mitsuki actually climbed up the tiers during the time skip, where Mitsuki had an express goal to reach Otsutsuki levels of power, and when you factor in the mental amp that he's gotten from having his rage boost, we could see Mitsuki fight on a much higher level than we anticipated. But whether or not he forces Boruto to use more power against him than he did against Code, that's going to be telling, because if he does, somewhere Naruto fans are going to be feeling the same pain that Hashirama and Madara fans felt when they saw 17-year-old Naruto surpass both of them once he got Six Paths Chakra. The idea of Sage Mode Mitsuki being stronger than the adult Six Paths Naruto is going to trigger some people. It's going to be very interesting to see how this one actually plays out moving forward in the next chapter. Again, depending on how well Mitsuki does in this battle, and in particular since the next two chapters are going to finish up this current volume of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex.